just said the other day that there really wasn't any skilled players in the NBA back in the day outside of Michael Jordan. That's what he said. Your response to that, Irvin Magic Johnson?
Well, I don't never respond to a guy that's never won a championship. There's not nothing to really say. He didn't win a college championship. I don't know if he even won a high school championship. So
I was taught this very young, right? That if someone makes a broad statement, right? If it doesn't apply to you, why are you offended? Now, if anyone remembers, right, and Anthony Edwards said it himself in that very interview, he didn't really watch the game. He didn't really watch the game. And so that's one thing, right? So I don't think Magic Johnson, has been watching or paying attention, because you would have known that, right? But second of all, he's obviously just using Michael Jordan because that's the player everyone knows. See, yeah, if it doesn't apply, let it fly, right? And I've noticed this recently where there's times where people take things too literal, right? Did Anthony Edwards literally mean that Michael Jordan was the only player back then that had any sort of skill? Obviously not. I mean, if he comes out and says it, then by all means. But I think sometimes we have to take a step back, right, and just listen, right? Because anyone that watched back in the day, anyone that's ever gone through this Michael Jordan debate for as long as I have, would know that part of the reason why people question Michael Jordan's championships is because Magic Johnson was already past his prime and not in the league. There's people that question whether or not Michael Jordan would have won those championships had Magic Johnson been in his prime in the 90s. I was also talking the other day about the fact that passing is quite possibly the only skill that hasn't evolved in basketball. It's the only thing that people cannot replicate. LeBron James, Chris Paul might be the only two. I mean, there's very good passers in the league. Don't get me wrong. But the flashiness that we saw from players from a Jayson Kidd, a Steve Nash, a Magic Johnson, Jerry West back in the day, like the names go on, right? Of these guys that just make these fancy ass passes. So instead of bringing attention to that aspect of his game and in turn critiquing in an accurate way the current NBA, he decides to make it confrontational. And listen, maybe he felt attacked, and that I get it, right? Like we can all be defensive, right? We're all only human. I mean, we have brought it up recently how Dennis looked as a spin of ball in warm-ups, watching how long it was in the air, etc. Yeah. You know, to say, you know, Magic, I just feel like he could have handled that a little differently. Now, I can't tell him what to do. He obviously feels a certain way. He feels like he was being attacked. He obviously feels like it was, you know, partly directed at him. Then you have guys who innovate. It wasn't as well a well thought out statement. If the thought about it, he would have taken back all he's back. What all should just ignore it. Yeah. And here's the other part too, right? And this is the thing I hate about some of these old heads, right? Anthony Edwards was talking about skill. I get that the definition of skill has gotten a little bit weird over time, right? Skills are the basic things in basketball that everyone can work on. Dribbling, passing, shooting, posting up, running off. All of these things are skills. IQ even, I guess. Like everything, right? And Magic Johnson responds with championships. You see, I'm talking about an individual skill, and you're bringing up a team accomplishment. This is literally apples to oranges. We're not even arguing the same thing. That's my issue with it, right? Is Anthony Edwards' statement extreme? Yes. But to hide behind your championships and pretend as if all of the players on every roster in the NBA in the 80s and 90s were all highly skilled players is fucking delusional. I understand that there's some casual fans now that think because players have skill that they're good basketball players. No, those are two totally different things. Yeah, damn near every player on an NBA roster in 2024, 2025 can dribble the ball, shoot the ball from three. They could do all these dribble moves, step backs, Euro steps. They can do It doesn't mean that they're great basketball players. It doesn't mean that they're smart. It doesn't mean that they're in shape. There's more to basketball than skill. So for Magic Johnson to come out in that way and sound as offended as he did, and you hear somebody, oh, those are great points. Motherfucker, you don't get the point. You missing it. You are completely missing it. Instead of trying to educate him, you hide behind your championships. Because let's be honest, right? Magic Johnson wasn't no great defender. Magic Johnson wasn't a great ball handler. I laugh when people say he's a great ball handler. Not turning the ball over and being a great ball handler are two totally different things. Totally different things. Has a ugly ass jump shot, but figured out how to get it to go in the middle of his career, and really became a very solid to good spot up shooter. His greatest advantage was the fact that he was 6'9". That was his greatest advantage, because he wouldn't have been able to do the things that he was doing if he wasn't that tall. And like I said, there's some people that forget the fact that he had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I haven't watched enough. He wasn't a great ball handler or a dribble. Okay, fair. No, fair. I guess, I don't know if you would. I guess they are different, right? If in terms of actually just straight dribbling the ball, I guess ball handler could be interpreted as something a little bit different, right? How do you handle pick and rolls and how do you protect the ball? He was great at that. But in terms of just facing you up and dribbling in front of you, he was never that. Isaiah Thomas was that in that time. Magic Johnson was never that player. There's a reason why if you picked him up at half court, what would he do? He would turn the fuck around. Because he couldn't just stand in front of you and hit crossovers, and it just wasn't his game. And maybe that's why he felt offended. He feels like, oh, I wasn't this, but dog, you possess something that was fucking amazing. And instead of highlighting that in a conversation about skill, you decide to hide behind your championship.